Okay, I think you guys have enough on your table, so I'll have a little short lecture today. And there is no assignment with this lecture. And I'll just go over a few things which I think we missed in Illustrator, although you guys are working in InDesign. Last time I showed you a little bit of a process, how to work between the programs, and we were able to create a business card. And where we used Photoshop for the background image, we used Illustrator to do logo, and then we put everything together in Adobe Illustrator. We created sort of a template for us. A couple of things to remember. We used effects. Okay, so remember when we were transforming the business card from one place to the other, horizontally and then vertically, those are just effects. And the original element which was there, which was the original card. So all the other are just a mere copy of the original. So if we want to make any change, so you make it to the original, and it populates all the other cards instantly. So that's what we were doing. Um, I want to touch on another subject. It's not a big subject, but we need to take a look at that in Illustrator. You'll find it really interesting. Uh, so let me share my screen with you. Okay, so I have Illustrator open. I just created a new document. It's completely blank, nothing in there. We've been working with some of the tools on this side. Okay, we know the selection tool, we know group selection tool and direct selection tool. There's a pen tool. We went over a whole exercise on pen tools. There is another tool over here, which is curvature tool. We didn't touch on that, but we'll see if we can come back to this. Text tool, line tools, and all. I do want to show you a couple of other things today. So one of the things is working with symbols. Okay. Now symbols are something that stores or resides on your right hand side. There's a panel. So remember, there's this color panel and color guide and all the stuff, brushes panel. And then there's a symbols panel. I think we did touch on this once, but not, I don't think you'll even remember what we did over there. But it was very brief. But these are symbols which are sort of pre-made graphics, which can be stored as a symbol in the symbols. I would say that symbols panel over here is like a storage place. Okay. Before I get to the libraries, I'll just pick one of the symbols from here. Okay, so let's say that this is the house symbol. And if I want to use this, I can simply drag this out. Okay. And again, these are all vector drawings. I can just place it over here. If I want another house over here, so let's say that we are building a neighborhood over here. So a couple of things you can do is option drag. Okay, so when we option drag a symbol, so we are just making a copy of a symbol. Okay, and let me do Command Z to undo this. Another thing you can do is you can just pull out these symbols as many times as you want. Okay, And if you may remember, one of the analogies I used, that was analogy of the actor Eddie Murphy. So I asked the question that, uh, what is that we know about Eddie Murphy? What is he famous for? Yes, of course, he's an actor, but one of the things is his comedy, but his comedy movies in which he can do many different roles. So if you want to call symbols as Eddie Murphy, that should be fine, because this is Eddie Murphy, and this is Eddie Murphy who can come on the screen many times. Okay, so what is the advantage over here is this symbol is the original which resides in this storage area. And if we want to make a change to all these, we call them instances of this symbol which appear over here. Okay, so if we make a change to the actual symbol, okay, and all the symbols which were associated with that, or all the instances which are associated to that symbol are going to change. Okay, so let's let me just make another copy of this symbol over here. So I just made a copy of this and delete this. And I'll just work on the copy because I didn't want it to mess up the original for myself. Okay, so when this symbol comes, of course, you can scale it, you can rotate it, you can squish it, okay, that's fine. But everything over here is coming from this symbol. So I can still keep dragging these out. I can rotate this guy. I can do any changes I want on this. So again, it's the same actor which is coming on the stage in a different way. Okay, so now let's say, I think I should be pulling out these symbols over here. Okay, so if I want to make changes to the symbol, okay, so I can go over here, I can double click on the actual symbol. Now it opens up in its own window, okay. Over here, I can edit. Okay, for example, the color of this symbol is blue, so I might want to change the color. So let's just say I make it red. Okay, so I change the symbol, and then when I go back, so now you notice that any symbol which was created, or any instance which was created with that particular symbol, okay, will already be updated. Now, the good example can be, let's say that if we were doing a map, see, I might have a, let me just open this. I think this can be a good example over here. I don't want to worry about the font. It's a really old file. Okay, so this map, if you notice that the symbols which have been used over here, okay, so if you're looking for a restroom or a restaurant, uh, where the parking is, and so on. So any medical help. So that is across or even these freeway symbols over here. Okay, so these symbols were drawn in Illustrator and they were saved in your symbols library. And so this symbols panel is associated uh, with the document you are using. Okay, so every document you can add or delete symbols. Okay, so in this case, so these symbols have already been, so let's say that we want to place another uh, restaurant symbol in this building. So I can just grab this guy and just drag it over here. Okay, so then think of, if at any point you may want to say, you know what, these symbols, although these are black and white, so maybe I want to put a little color in there. So let's say that I want all the restroom symbols to be orange. Okay, so what can I do? I can just come over here on the symbol, double click, okay, and let's just zoom in, select the symbol, and let's see if we can change the color over here. Let's give it a yellow color, not just the background. Let's see how this was built. Okay, so let's say that the lady over here is going to be orange and the gentleman is going to be blue. Okay, so what I did is I modified the symbol, and then when I go back to my document, zoom out, you can see all the instances of that symbol have been updated. Okay, so that is the power of symbols. Okay, so another thing we want to do is we need to learn how to make a symbol, and it's very easy. Anything which you can draw in Illustrator can be saved as a symbol, no matter how simple or how complex that is. Okay, so how do you save it? So let's make something over here. Just delete. Okay, so let's say we have a star and we'll just have a little fun over here. So make a circle, make it blue. I'm just drawing something, so nothing complex. So as I mentioned before, anything can be turned into a symbol. So let's also rotate this from this point, and option, and then rotate it over here, and then Command D, Command D, Command D. Okay, so maybe I can move this guy a little bit over here, this guy. Okay, so we created something which can be saved as a symbol. Okay, so how do you do that? Okay, so it's simple. First of all, make a selection. This is your symbols panel over here. These are your tools. These are your panels. Okay, so if I click over here, I can, now these are some of the symbols which come with Illustrator, but we want to save this as a symbol. Either I go and click this new symbol icon to add this over here, or let me just delete this. I think I also deleted the, or you can just simply take this drawing and drag it into the symbols panel if it's open, and then you can name the symbol. Now there are two types of symbols you can create. Okay, one is the graphic symbol and the other is the movie clip. Okay, now symbols can also be used in animation, and if you remember anyone who has used Flash before, in Flash you can have symbols which have their built-in animation. So you can let's say that if there's a rotating wheel which is going to be placed on a cart. So you can create a symbol which is animated symbol, and then it can be, so it is continuously rotating and it can be attached to another cart, and so in that case it will be a movie symbol. And graphic symbol is a symbol which is just a graphic. So if you are going to take these symbols, so you can draw these symbols in Illustrator, and if you want to take it to programs like Flash, which is called Adobe Animate now, so that you don't have to convert it into a movie symbol over there, so that can be done. So this is, so I'm just going to create a graphic symbol, that is fine. It doesn't make much difference when we are working in Illustrator. So what type of symbol we save. But if you have to take those symbols which you make into animation programs, then you may have to save them as movie clips. Okay. All right. So once again, if you are doing movie clip, so of course it's going to be a dynamic symbol. If you're just doing graphics, so you have a choice of selecting. There's always a registration point uh, associated with a symbol. Okay, so you can, excuse me, you can set up the registration point. Registration point is just like, when you are rotating something, there's a point of rotation. So by default, it is right in the center. But if you want to change the rotation point to the upper left-hand corner or right lower corner, and so on, it can be done. So that again, registration makes a little more sense when you have to use these symbols in an animation, or you have to rotate them. But anyway, so you can also enable 9-slice guiding scale. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about that, so I'll have to go in a lot of details. But at this time, just remember that we are just saving this as a symbol. We'll just say okay to this. You can name it anything you want. So once you have a symbol, it can be placed onto your document many times. You can rotate it, and you can do all the fun stuff with that. Okay, so that is one thing. Now there is another tool which is associated with your symbols. Okay, your symbols reside in a panel, but in your tools panel there's a tool called symbols. Okay, let's see where it is. Right here. Okay, so this is called the symbol sprayer tool. Okay, let me delete everything from here. I'll use one of these smaller symbols over here. So let's see. Yeah, I'll just use the shopping cart over here. So I select the shopping cart. So in other words, you are selecting a symbol in your symbols panel. Then you select your tool. And with this symbol sprayer tool, so you can actually spray that symbol. Okay, isn't it fun? Now this can be anything complex or as simple as this shopping cart. Okay, so let's go and find a better symbol over here. So in symbols panel, you will find this library. And now you can see that there are so many categories of symbols which come with Illustrator. They are already made symbols for you. And so there are some 3D symbols. Okay. So this is the library which is open. This is your symbols panel. So if I want to use any one of those symbols, so they will be transferred over here. Like this is going to be the active window. This is just a storage over here. So these are 3D, and then I can actually scroll through all the library over here. So these are some arrows over here, some artistic, like those, like crosshatch, brush types symbols. Then there are some other fancy celebration symbols and some simple shapes and so on. So I can just scroll through these. So these are some of the symbols which come with. So for example, I pick up, I'm doing a greeting card or something, so I'll use this flower. Okay, so as soon as I click this flower in the library, it gets added to my symbols panel. Okay, and once it is added, so it is already selected for me. So once it is selected, so now I can start spraying. Okay, so when I was spraying, if you noticed that there was a little plus sign in the center of your symbol. Let me do this again, and so that you can see that. That plus sign is like that registration point I was talking about. So by default, the registration is right in the center. Okay, so if I rotate any of these symbols, so it's going to rotate from that particular point, which is right in the center. Okay, so now I can just add some more. Okay, so now this, whatever I'm doing over here, this looks quite monotonous. They're all, flowers are all the same size. And before I show you how to edit them, I want you to understand that at this time, what I have placed on my document, if I go to my selection tool, this is my symbol set. Okay, so when I was spraying, automatically Illustrator is going to put them in this set. They are like grouped. So if I move everything, everything moves together. Okay, if I scale it, okay, everything gets scaled accordingly. Now, this is what the whole set is. But how can I edit what is going on inside this set of. Okay, so how we can edit is I can go back to that symbols tool, okay, which I was using. And if I click and hold, I can see that there are other options or other tools which are hiding down there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click, hold, and drag my mouse all the way to the right side of this panel to tear this panel off from here, and then so that we can see which tool we are using. So here was my symbol sprayer tool, which I was using. Okay, so I can add more symbols here. And then there is a symbol shifter tool. So with the symbol shifter tool, I can actually shift already placed symbols. So let's say that, I need some more flowers in this corner, so I can drag some over here. So I can shift these and so on. Okay, so that is a shifter tool. Next one over here is called the symbol scruncher tool. So with this, if I click over here, okay, so I can sort of scrunch them together, okay? See how they are coming together? Actually, I've spread them out a little too much, so that's why it's like, but again, so you can scrunch them together, okay? And But if you want to spread them out again, so with the same tool, you can press the Option key and then, so with Option, so it will do a little different job. Okay, so this is called the symbol. Oh, sorry, I was thinking why it was not working correctly. So again, symbol scruncher tool and Option key to do the opposite. Okay. With the symbol scruncher tool, you bring them together, and Option, spread them. All right, so this is a scruncher tool, and then of course there's a symbol spinner tool. So with the symbol spinner, so it'll make more sense if I zoom in, and you can see that I can actually, you can see those little arrows appearing, so I can change the orientation or the rotation of the symbols I click on. So now, with this, these are not going to look too monotonous over here. All right, so let's look at another, oh, by the way, by default, okay, so you can just click and just rotate in, I think, clockwise direction, and if you want to go the other way, then you press the Option key. All right, another tool over here is called, let me see, did they take out? Yeah, I think I missed that. Symbol sizer tool. Okay, so symbol sizer tool is a fun tool where you can actually change the size of your symbols. Okay, now if you think that you have gone a little too far, it's become too big, then press the Option key and then you can control the size. All right. Then I'll go to the next tool, which is called the symbol stainer tool. Now, before you can stain, you need to understand that what color is selected in your tools panel over here. So right now I have this blue selected, okay? And then I can go back to the symbol set over here, and with the symbol stainer tool, I can stain the symbols which are in here. Okay, if I select a different color, so let's say that I want to make them yellow, and then I can go in and start staining some of the flowers yellow. Isn't this fun? So, but remember, these are all the instances of this symbol. Okay, now if I change anything in the symbol itself, okay, if I double click over here, I can go in with any of these selection options and say, you know what, how about these petals? I'll just move them. If I can get hold of these. Don't think it's going to let me. Just make some changes. So like these little dots in there, how about selecting them and changing them into yellow dots? Okay, And then of course, like these petals, I'm using Shift key to select some random petals over here and make them red. Okay, so you know where I'm going with this. So just selecting more colors over here. It looks horrible, but that's fine. So once you make the change, then you go back. And how do you go back is by clicking this arrow. So you are in a special place right now. You are editing the symbol. So when I go back, okay, so I've made some change. So my computer is calculating at this time. It's a little slow, but let's see. Hopefully I didn't crash my computer. Okay, I think it did like it. See if I have anything else open in the background. Let me close Photoshop and see maybe. Okay, there it is. Okay, so we made a little complex change, so that's why it took a little longer. And when I closed Photoshop, so it released some memory. So, so you can see how the symbol uh, changes have been replicated in the whole set. Okay, so now I just want to add one other thing. So let's say that this flower over here, okay, so if I want to make any change to an individual object, okay, so in that case, since it's a set, so we'll have to expand it. But once we expand it, so we won't be able to edit that with this. We call them as the symbolism tools over here, starting with the symbol sprayer tool, symbol shifter tool, symbol scruncher, sizer, rotator, uh, stainer, symbol screener. We haven't seen that, so let's just use that while we are here. So with the symbol screener, like, you know, these are quite saturated flowers. Okay, so with the screener, so I can add a little screen, so it gives a little faded look over here. So this, okay, so that's what the symbol screener tool does. And it adds a little more dimension to. And symbol styler tool, I won't use it on this one because it is getting a little too much. So since we are here, so we should also talk about the styles a little bit. So that is just like symbols, you can also save styles. Remember, we used styles in our last project where we were doing business cards. And so when we were transforming, we were using the styles or the effects menu. Okay, with effects you can create styles and you can save those styles. And but again, that's a different subject, so I didn't want it to get in there. But let's explore some other things over here quickly. I'm 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 playing shortcuts over here. Okay, so this is fine. And last thing I want to show you is that, hey, you know what? Um, I've done the symbols, that is fine. This is looking okay. I don't want to make any more changes. One thing I can do is I can go to the object menu and say, now let's release it from the set. Let's just expand it. Okay, and then you can choose what are you expanding, object, just the object, or fill. So I'll say both, please, and say okay. So now these are all individual symbols. They are not in a set. Okay, so now you can go and choose any one of those symbols. Okay, uh, I think you'll have to ungroup them too. So object and say ungroup, and now you can actually go in and select individual symbols and then move them around, and if you want to do any fine tuning you can do that. Okay, and actually this is where I was going to and I stopped at that time. So let's say that there is this flower over here. So the colors and everything is coming from the actual symbol and we have stained it, but we just want to make change to this guy over here. Okay, so what we do is, after selecting this, I'll go to my symbols panel, and here is the flower I was working on. I can select this, and then there's a link. So I'm going to say break link to the symbol. So once I break the link, now this is just like any other graphic at this time. So it is not associated with this symbol anymore. So now if I want to go and edit, okay, so let's just do with group selection tool, and I can just go and edit these petals over here, and let's make them yellow. And now you can see that I can actually just change this particular symbol itself. Okay, no, I shouldn't call it a symbol because it's just another graphic. Um, any questions so far on symbols? Okay, so it is fun. Okay, to play with symbols. I showed you an example over here where you can actually use symbols, or when you are creating any illustrations, or you can start with some of the symbols which come with Illustrator, and you can just scroll through them and see what type of symbols are there, and then you can reuse them. Or you can create your own libraries, and anything you draw can be a symbol. Or if you are using any existing symbol, let's use this rocket over here. Okay, so as soon as I pull this out of the library, if I go to the symbols panel, I should bring this over here. It should be added over here. I can close the library. I can always access library over here. I put this rocket over here. I can scale it up so that we can see. Okay, so now this is a symbol itself, but I didn't want it to use these colors. I wanted to change the colors. Okay, so what do? I break the link from the symbol. Once I break the link from the symbol, I can go in with either direct selection tool or a group selection tool. And then let's just change this from red to maybe purple or green. Okay. All right. So now we have made this change, but the problem is that this symbol is already there, and uh, how can I use this as a symbol? So once again, it is simple. First of all, make sure that you size it the size you want. Okay, so I'll make it even smaller than this guy. Select it and drag it into your symbols panel. Okay, so I'll just name it Rocket 2, And movie clip, it doesn't matter for us at this time whether it's graphic or movie. Just say OK, and we have a new symbol over here. So once I have this symbol, I can use it any way I want. Okay, but if I want to use it in a set, so I can go to the symbolism tools, select the symbol sprayer tool, make sure that this symbol is selected, and then with this I can spray a set. Okay, and then I can play with other symbolism tools over here. Symbol shifter tool, symbol scruncher tool, or symbol sizer tool. I'll use sizer over here. Okay. And then again, if you want to rotate any, so it doesn't make sense to rotate the rockets over here, but you can. If you want to, let's do a symbol stainer tool or screener tool. So screener will fade out certain, and symbol screener is going to make them a little lighter. It's sort of making, it stains with whatever color is selected over here. So we already had green selected. If I want to change this to, let's stain it with the red color. Okay, or this magenta color, and then you can see that I can do that. Okay, so this is a little bit about symbols. You can actually creatively use symbols. If for some reason, if you're using a set, if you want to go and manually move things around, then you need to go and expand. Okay, so you go to the object menu. This is where the expand is, and then expand. So once you expand, then you can go in with your direct selection tool or group selection tool, and then you can manually move these around. Or if there is one symbol over here which you want to actually change and not the others. So let's say that I want it to be larger, but I want this to be a special color. So what you do is you break your link from the original symbol. Once the link is broken, then you can go and modify this. So let's say the nose of the rocket is going to be red or maybe blue, and the body is going to be yellow. So let's see what happened over here. So it's blue and so on. Okay, so once again, this is just another graphic which we are manipulating, so it is not associated with a symbol. Okay. What do you think, guys? Is it fun?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right. So, you just have to think of, how you can use it. So, another example will be something really complex and meaningful. I'm just going to use this symbol just to show you what I mean by that. Just make it a little larger so that we can see it. So although, this is just an icon, but think that you have designed a calendar, okay? So you have designed a calendar, so you can just design one page of the calendar, but there are 12 months in a year. So what you can do is that you can save this as a symbol, okay, and you give it a name. Let's just call it month. Say okay. So now this is saved, and if you are doing a 12-month calendar, so all you have to do is to pull this out and 12 times and go and make the changes to individuals. So at that time you can either uh, put the dates on top of it, or you can break the link to the symbol and then modify it accordingly. Okay, so that can be another interesting way of doing calendars. So last time when we were doing business cards, so we created a sort of a business card template for us. But over here, you can also save your work as a symbol itself, and you can reuse it. If you are into animation, for example, so let's say that you work on Simpsons, and in Simpsons there are certain types of backgrounds, certain type of sofas, certain pieces of decoration and all the stuff. So if you're doing illustration over there, so you can save uh, each element as a symbol over here so that you don't have to recreate those. And then you just create a new scene and just drag some symbols out, you size them, enlarge it, make them smaller, or however you want to use them. So you will have your own library of symbols. Okay. So that is symbols. Now, this is interesting. Adobe is known to make changes, and one of the changes they are making is they are changing the name symbols. They're in in Illustrator, they are still called symbols. In other programs like the new Adobe XD, so they are not calling them symbols anymore. They are calling them as components. Okay, so if you ever hear a term, a component or a symbol, that means the same. Okay, and what appears onto your document, okay, is not a symbol. It is the instance of that symbol which is showing up over here. So this flower is a symbol, but these are all the instances of the symbol. So once again, the analogy which I use to explain that to my students is that your symbol is like Eddie Murphy, and Eddie Murphy can come on the stage and play many different roles. So if that works. Okay, we still have some time. I'm not going to do a long lecture today, but I'm going to show you a couple of other things before we stop. Um, okay, here's a circle, and I'll make another. Let's make a star over here. Okay, and give this a different color. Okay, so circle and a star. There is another tool. I don't know if I showed it to you earlier. I don't remember. It is called the blend tool. Did I show blend tool to you guys? Anyone? Anyone remembers that?
I don't think so.
Okay, so this is how blend works. Okay, uh, so I'll grab this tool called blend tool. It is right underneath your eyedropper tool. So with the blend tool, so I can click on this object and then I can click on this object. So it's going to create a blend between, and it's sort of circle is morphing into a star over here. Okay, so you can have different objects and they can blend with each other. Now, how do they blend? Right now, the last option which I was using on my computer, so this is how it is creating a really smooth blend. But actually, if I go closer, okay, so you can see that inside the blend, these are all individual objects, changing size and changing color. So where the blend is starting and where the blend is ending. Another thing, if you notice, is that right in the center there is this line or a path. Okay, so the blend is taking place on this path. But you know that if there is a path, you can manipulate it. So if let's say, if I go in with, remember those pen tools we were using? There's an anchor point tool. Okay, so if I go and find that path, see, I have to select that path first. Okay, so after you select that path, and then with the anchor point tool, so you can modify that path. Okay, so let's say I want this to look like, a shooting star coming from this, and then it's just whooping across like this. Okay, so all I did is that the path on which the blend was made, I just modified it. So over here, you can also, I'll just blend it this way. So it goes like this. Or if you want to add other points in there, you can do that too. So remember, there's an add anchor point, there's subtract or delete anchor point tool. So I can add by using the add anchor point tool. And then you can further modify your paths over here. So okay, and yeah, I can modify it this way if I have to. But you got the idea though. So again, you can create some really interesting effects. If I can get hold of this point, yeah. Okay, now it looks like a organic object moving across. Not just that, but these objects, remember, these are made up of paths as well as fills. If you want, you can also modify the color now. So you don't want this to go from blue to yellow all the way. So maybe you want it to go to blue and light green. So you can easily change the colors. Okay. Another interesting way, let's do this. Here's the arc tool. We saw this arc tool before. So I can draw an arc over here. And then, see, I need to have some sort of a color open. Let's give it a color. So let's make it. I think I'm zoomed out too much, so I'll have to make the point size a little larger so that we can see that. Okay. So here's a path which is like an arc, And okay, actually, let's just make this lighter green or yellow. Okay, so let's make it yellow. It's a little more visible. Then I'm going to create another path over here. Let's make it green. And now I can blend these. Now, when I'm blending by default, so when I go and choose my blend tool, I can click on this guy, I can click on this guy. So I can blend them together, but you know, these are not joining over here. That's why there's a gap. But if you notice that how the blending is taking place, let me do Command Z. Another way is that I clicked over here and then over here. Now I can also click on this end and then I can click on this end to create, it's not showing too much difference over here. But anyway, so let me also show you one other thing over here. Now, as I'm blending, it is creating smooth blends. But if I want to change the options, you can double click on the blend tool itself. Okay, and this is where the options are. Okay, so if you notice the smooth color is selected. So instead of smooth colors, I can say that I want it to go in specified steps. So if I do this, then I can say that, you know what, I just want it to go like 12 steps and say, okay. So now I've set this tool to go 12 steps. So if I click over here and then click over here, so it will create 12 steps between the two. Okay. Let me see if this makes a difference. If I click on this guy and this guy, yeah, it's doing the same thing. Okay, so if I move one of these guys from here, then create a blend from this point to this point. Okay, so you can create some really interesting imagery. Another interesting thing you can do with the blending, let me show you another effect. Once again, there is no assignment associated with what I'm showing you today. So just, you know, this is just a, you know, I just wanted to give you a little more about a couple of tools in Photoshop. I mean, Illustrator over here. Talking about Photoshop, so I think let's do this. I'm all over the place today. So okay, so here is a path which I drew. Let's just end this over here. And I'm going to take my rotation tool, select this guy and put a point of rotation over here. Point of rotation with the Option key down. I can make a copy. Let's make this copy, let's make it blue. It's a little too dark blue, so okay. And then I'll show you another way. Yeah, you can use your blending tool to click and click to create a blend. Another way of creating blend will be you select both these paths together. Okay, once they are selected, then you can go to the object menu, and from here you can choose blend. Now over here you have the option of setting up, you know, your blending options over here. If I just go make it, it remembers the last blending option which I have set up. But if I go over here, so the same dialog box comes up. So I'll say, you know what, I want a little more. So how about 20 steps between them? And if I just say okay, so I've set up the options. I'll have to go back to object and then choose blend, and from here you can choose make. So you can also remember the keyboard shortcut, which is option command B. So when I do this, so now I can create that blend. Now this is interesting. So how about if I select this guy now, I can copy it, edit, copy. And how about taking it to Photoshop? I quit out of Photoshop, so I'll have to start it again, so that's fine. Okay, so I want this to be, just create a new document over here. It should be okay. Okay, so here's a Photoshop document, and I'm going to fill this with a gradient. But remember what I copied from Illustrator. So I'll say edit and then paste. Now I have option of how I can paste this. I can paste it as a smart object. It's going to keep the link to the Illustrator components in there, so which you can edit in Illustrator, and it's going to update Photoshop like a smart object. Or I can place them as pixels, or you can just bring in paths or shape. So in this case, I'm going to put the copied information as pixels. They will no longer have Illustrator options over there. I can make it a little smaller. So this is the time where you can actually scale if you hit the return key. Now these are new pixels which I put in there. Now in Photoshop, now you can manipulate pixels. Okay. For example, you can add, let's add some little bit of a blur over here. So filter, let's add a little bit of a blur. I'll do Gaussian blur because it gives me a little preview over here so I can see how much blurriness I want. And then I can change the blending mode from normal to, let's try dissolve. See? So this is giving an interesting effect. How about trying screen? Okay, so screen is making it a little lighter. So you can play with different blending modes and see how. Yeah, this is interesting. Pin light is creating a really interesting effect over here. So again, there's something to play with. So I can just increase the font size. Maybe I'm trying to make a background for something. Um, I'll rotate the canvas image, image rotation, and then let's just rotate it 90 degrees counterclockwise. Okay, so now this is just another layer, so I'll just make another copy and take this, and I can rotate this a little bit, or maybe just move it. Okay, you can even scale it if you want. Not just that, if you right click in there, you should be able to warp. Okay, so when you're warping, so you can actually warp the pixels. Okay, so you can play around and see, you know, how these things go. So, you know, it's so much fun. There's no end to it. With the coronavirus thing, you guys are sitting at home. Just you open Illustrator, open Photoshop, and just start playing. You can never get bored. So let's just make another copy of this. This time I'm going to change colors, Command U for hue saturation, and let's say apply some different hue over here. See how that looks. Okay, so just have fun, guys. Just play around. There's no assignment to turn in. It's just getting to know some more tools. Just have fun and keep working on the assignments you already have. Once you finish your assignments, you can just place them in your folders. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and see if anyone has any questions, or we didn't have enough students today, so there are like a lot of students missing.
Yeah, I have a question of
Sure.
the logo for the jar, right?
Okay.
Are we supposed to just make the logo, or are we supposed to attach it to like a jar?
You can attach it to the jar if you want, so you don't have to.
Okay.
Okay, so keep that thought, okay? So you're talking about the 3D jar?
The 3D.
Oh, no, no. No, I'm just thinking ahead of myself at this point. Uh, since you asked this question, so let's also let me show you another use um, of symbols. Okay. Before I do this, if anyone else has any other questions, so I think this will be interesting.
When are we gonna have a crit?
Let's just keep it on Thursday. I keep putting it off, so let's just do it on Thursday. So there won't be any other assignment. I just wanted to give you a little more time, guys. So we'll just do a critique. Okay. So I'm just going to take another 5 minutes to show you a couple of other things. Okay. Before we break today. Uh, so as I mentioned before, so we won't have a long lecture today. And this is just based on the question you have asked. Let me see. Okay, so here is a vector pack in there, so it has some interesting motifs. So let's just use one of these. So let's get this guy over here. Okay, so this comes in. It's a symbol. Okay, It shows up in my symbols panel. I can break a link from the symbol. Can change the color.
You can't see the screen.
Oh, you can't, sorry. There it is. Okay, can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I found a symbol, okay, and in the library. So I just chose it and it showed up in my symbols panel. I'm going to make a copy and I'm going to flip it or reflect it vertically this way. Okay, so I want this to be, let's say, blue or purple. So I can go to the symbol itself. I can double click. I can modify the symbol as we have seen before. And then I can go and find my colors panel or swatches. And from here, I'm just going to choose this purple. Okay. And then when I go back, interesting. So it did not update. That is interesting. So, I didn't do this because I forgot that I broke my link to the symbol itself. So that's fine. So we can just, okay. And this new modified object, I can just save this as a symbol itself. Okay. So now this is the symbol, and I deleted the graphic because I already have the symbol, so I can use it again and again. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a bottle. Okay. So just create a new artboard so that we can Command R turns on the ruler. I'm going to pull out a guide. Okay, this is just for my reference what I'm going to do. Then I can just grab my pen tool and click, click. Let's just make it into a fancy bottle over here. Okay, so I have to be a little accurate over here when I'm doing this. Okay. So here's a profile of a bottle, and I can make it 3D. And actually, I don't even need a fill color over here. Okay, so I can just have a stroke, purple color stroke going around this. So now this object, which I just drew, now this is an open path. There's nothing on this side. But somehow, if I can rotate it in 3D, so it will look like a 3D bottle. So for that, once again, there is another effect, which is a 3D effect. Okay. There's an option over here, extrude and bevel, and then there is another option which is revolve. So I'm going to use the revolve option. And so now you can see that it revolves. So this is your 3D panel. So by default, it is revolving around this the y-axis over here, x-axis. And then there's also the z-axis, which is going in and out, okay? If you want to change the orientation of the bottle, it can be done over here, okay? So you can actually rotate how the bottle is going to look like. All right, so now this is fine, but what I wanted you to see is there's a button over here which says Map Art, okay? So in Map Art, it is showing you different surfaces, okay? And so which you can actually scroll through. But over here, what I'm going to do is that I can decide which symbol to apply. So we made this symbol, actually I made this purple. So let's see how that looks. Okay, and now the symbol which I made is a little larger. So I should be able to scale it, to scale to fit, okay? And let's see how that looks. It's the same color, so. Okay, so now we need to see, where am I applying it to? So what surface? I have to choose the correct surface, because when you are working in a 3D object, so remember uh, the profile, there's an outer side of the profile, and in the 3D environment, there's an inside. So you need to go and find, I wish they could make this a little more descriptive and see, so now this is one surface, this red is showing you. So I'm not sure if it's the inside or outside. So let's just see if I can find the. Okay, so let's see. Map art. Let me apply a different symbol over here. And oh yeah, see, it is appearing over here. And you can make it larger. Okay. So in other words, if you need to map an art on a 3D object in Illustrator, so you will have to create a symbol. So once you have the symbol itself, and then you can map it. Or, I was just showing it to you. Or what you can do is you can design a label and then apply it to a 3D object. So I'm just going to stop over here. So you got the idea. Just last thing, if you want to remember this, that once you create this, and then you'll say, hey, you know what, I want to rotate it. Okay, so in Illustrator you can, but this is what's going to happen. So if you really want to rotate the bottle itself, so what you need to do is you need to find the appearance panel, so which is right here. If it's not showing, that you can always find that in your Windows menu and appearance. So in appearance panel, you will go to the effect, and that is your 3D revolve effect. So once you do this, the same dialog box will open up. So now you can just rotate this guy. Okay, so you can use these X and Y rotation or you can actually manually go and say, hey, you know what, let's just rotate it this way. Okay, just say okay, and now you have a rotation. Now, this is the original bottle profile, and there is an effect which is being applied to it, which is the 3D effect. So the actual bottle is not changing, it's just the effect which you are visually seeing over here. So that's how 3D works in Illustrator. All right, guys, so I'm going to stop here. If you don't have any questions, so that will be the end of lecture today.
All right. Thank you.
Anyone has any questions?
It's okay. Thank you.
Okay, so once again, guys, it's just fun stuff. There's no assignment associated. Just play around. So, but remember, there are some assignments which we already are working on. So keep working on them. And today, actually, I had a really long day at work. So actually, I was working from home, but I was working all night, and I apologize. It's my mistake. I totally forgot that we were going to do a critique today. So, but anyway, we can still do it on Thursday. So thank you for sticking around, guys, and you guys have a nice rest of the evening.
You too.
And we'll see each other on Thursday.
Cool.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good
And
night.
just remember, I will be putting these videos if anyone wants to take a look at those.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night.